Keqing is the original Electro 5-star. She's been in the game since release, and since then, though having grown a large and loyal following, she has also gained a reputation of being weak, and has been near the bottom of the list when it comes to pick rate for things like the Spiral Abyss. Aside from Electro having been an underrated element with the exception of taser teams, as well as Keqing's lower multipliers and not being able to put out as much damage as other units of her element like Raiden Shogun, or provide off-field Electro damage and or burst support like Fischl or Yae Miko, Keqing largely became a character people often ignored. With the release of Dendro, however, this has changed, and in a big way. The reason? Aggravate. The TLDR for Aggravate is that Dendro plus Electro, or Electro plus Dendro, the order doesn't matter, equals Quicken. Quicken plus Electro again equals Aggravate. Aggravate adds a flat amount of bonus damage to the attack that triggers it. The flat amount is determined by the character's level in Elemental Mastery, but is added to the damage equation before multipliers, meaning unlike transformative reactions like Overload, the damage from Aggravate can increase with damage bonus and it can crit. And because it's a flat amount increase, attacks with low multipliers are going to benefit the most from it. And who has several fast attacks with low multipliers that can trigger Aggravate? That's right, Keqing. Keqing can apply Electro several times very quickly, meaning she can trigger a lot of aggravates in a short amount of time. And the lower scaling on her attacks means the flat increase will be a lot more noticeable, causing her overall damage output to increase substantially. Thanks to this, Keqing has firmly planted her stiletto into the meta pretty much overnight. The great thing about building Keqing for Aggravate is that the general idea hasn't changed at all, just some things that might not have been desirable before now are. You still want to build her normally as a DPS, so attack, damage, crit, but Elemental Mastery is actually useful, and leveling her all the way up to 90 is beneficial as well. This also provides increased flexibility for artifacts and weapons, and if you're playing a more quick swap style team like I do, you only really need to level her burst followed by her skill, and you don't need to invest in her normals, unless you really want to, or if you also want to play her as a more sustained DPS in other team types. For artifacts, of course, the classic combinations of any two-piece of Thundering Fury, Attack Percent, or Noblesse are all still fantastic go-tos, but now the 4-piece Thundering Fury is incredibly useful on her, thanks to the Aggravate damage increase from the 4-piece effect, and since her skill already has a relatively short cooldown, and she procs Aggravate so many times during her burst, the cooldown reduction from the set allows you to use her skill right before her burst and then again immediately after. This can change your rotations slightly because you're not using her charged attacks in this setup, but the combination of her skill, her burst, and then her skill again actually allows for the other members in the team that I like to use anyway to line up their cooldowns better for an even quicker quick swap playstyle. The 4-piece Thunder Soother set has always had the potential to be one of her highest damage sets, but it was conditional on keeping an Electro aura applied on the enemy. With Quicken, that becomes really easy to do, especially if you're running another Electro in the team, so the set has increased in value. However, I personally prefer the 4-piece Thundering Fury set for her specifically, and if you have a good 4-piece of both, I'd put the Thundering Fury on Keqing and the Thunder Soother on the other Electro in your team, like Fischl for example, who is one of, if not the best, to pair with Keqing for Aggravate. One of the drawbacks of Thundering Fury and Thunder Soother before was that farming the domain was considered inefficient, but now it can be a good use of your resin should you choose to do so. And even if you don't want to farm the domain, you can trade in your unwanted pieces from whatever domain you are farming, now that both sets are in the strongbox. You can also equip Keqing with the new Gilded Dreams set. If you run Keqing with another Electro unit, a Dendro unit, and then a flex, let's say an Anemo, you're getting 180 EM, which is enough even if you have 0 on your substats, and a 14% attack bonus as long as Keqing triggers a reaction every 8 seconds, which with her fast Electro application is really easy to do. It's not going to be her best in slot set, but it's an option if you're farming the domain and get a good set, and you can continue to strongbox for Thundering Fury if you want to try to get better pieces. For stats, you want an attack sans, but an Elemental Mastery sans with great substats can also be used, an Electro damage goblet, and a crit rate or damage circlet, whichever one you need for a good ratio. And substats will be attack percent, crit rate and damage, and Elemental Mastery. Just don't go crazy with the EM just for the sake of it, because aside from dropping off after about 300, you don't want to sacrifice her offensive stats in favor of it. Between 100 and 200 is more than enough, and even less is fine. Her weapons don't change, so swords like Mistsplitter, Primordial Jade Cutter, Haran, Summit Shaper, Black Sword, Lion's Roar, etc. are still top choices for her, but the Ali Flash has increased in value, since before it was just a stat stick for its high attack, but now the elemental mastery on it is actually useful. It's not going to be better than the other weapons mentioned, but it is better than it used to be. Also, not the best, but free, is you can even get use of the Iron Sting in a pinch, if you have one lying around and it's your only option for now. Keqing Aggravate teams are pretty simple, as you just need to pair her with a Dendro unit, and from our limited current options, Dendro MC is the best. And that's not even Copium, Dendro MC is actually really good. But you can also use Cole if you really like her. You can add another Electro unit. Fischl is the best option for her constant off-field Electro application and damage, as well as her famous A4 passive, but you can also use units like Kujo Sara, Yai Miko if you can reliably get her burst up, and even a well-built Lisa, again if you can reliably get her burst up, and the final slot can be a flex. I like to use an Anemo unit like Kazuha for swirling Electro and his elemental damage bonus, but you can use Sucrose or Venti, or even Jean if you need healing. You can also experiment with other units like Kokomi or Singcho, which will turn it into a Quicken/Hyperbloom aka Quick Bloom team, which would be a fun thing to try as well. Zhongli is also a good option for his shield, as well as Electro and Dendro resistance shred, and Diona also provides a shield, as well as an EM boost at C6, and her cryo won't interfere with the quicken reaction since Dendro doesn't react with cryo. The only characters I would stay away from are pyro units, because they will remove the quicken aura and can cause burning, which you really don't want in this scenario. All in all, Aggravate is a lot of fun, and it's definitely my personal favorite reaction, and Keqing really shines in it, not only making playing her even more enjoyable than it already was, but it makes her a lot stronger. So if you have Keqing and haven't built her yet, now is a great time to do so, and losing your 50-50 to her is no longer such a bad thing if you thought it was before. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, like and subscribe for more videos to come, and I will see you next time.